Atomic habits. An extremely small amount of a thing, the single irreducible unit of a larger system. The source of immense power. A habit is a routine or behavior that is performed regularly, and, in many cases, automatically. Why tiny changes make a big difference. In the early 2000s, British cycling was a struggling sport, with the country having won only one gold medal in over 70 years and did not win any Tour de France in 108 years. However, in 2003, with the arrival of a new coach, Dave Brailsford, things began to change. Within short 5 years, in the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games, the British dominated road and track cycling by winning an astounding 60% of gold medals. Then in the 2012 London Olympics, they dominated the sport again. They also won Tour de France in 2012, 2013, 2015, 2016, and 2017. How did they do it? You see, Coach Brailsford believed in the power of small habits, or what he called marginal gains. This was the philosophy of searching for a tiny margin of improvement in everything you do. He and his team looked for ways to improve every aspect of cycling, from the riders' training routines to the ergonomics of their seats, to the mattresses they slept, as well as muscle recovery protocol. They even hired a surgeon to teach cyclists the proper way to wash their hands to minimize the chance of catching a cold. The story of British cycling shows that by focusing on small, incremental improvements, it's possible to achieve remarkable success. By making small changes to your habits and routines, you can create a ripple effect of positive change that can lead to significant improvements in your life. Why tiny changes matter. We all deal with setbacks, but in the long run, the quality of our lives often depends on the quality of our habits. With the same habits, you'll end up with the same results. But with better habits, anything is possible. The backbone of Atomic Habits is a 4-step model of habits: cue, craving, response, and reward, and the 4 laws of behavior change that evolve out of these steps. It's the accumulation of many missteps, a 1% decline here and there, that eventually leads to a problem. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. Your clutter is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. Time magnifies the margin between success and failure. It will multiply whatever you feed it. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. What progress is really like. Breakthrough moments are often the result of many previous actions, which build up the potential required to unleash a major change. Habits often appear to make no difference until you cross a critical threshold and unlock a new level of performance. In order to make a meaningful difference, habits need to persist long enough to break through this plateau called the plateau of latent potential. All big things come from small beginnings. The seed of every habit is a single, tiny decision. But as that decision is repeated, a habit sprouts and grows stronger. Roots entrench themselves and branches grow. Goals versus systems. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. We think we need to change our results, but the results are not the problem. What we really need to change are the systems that cause those results. When you solve problems at the results level, you only solve them temporarily. In order to improve for good, you need to solve problems at the systems level. Fix the inputs and the outputs will fix themselves. An atomic habit is a little habit that is part of a larger system. Just as atoms are the building blocks of molecules, atomic habits are the building blocks of remarkable results. If you want better results, then forget about setting goals. Focus on your system instead. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. 3 layers of behavior change. Outcomes are about what you get. Processes are about what you do. Identity is about what you believe. The more pride you have in a particular aspect of your identity, the more motivated you will be to maintain the habits associated with it. True behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of motivation, but the only reason you'll stick with one is that it becomes part of your identity. Your behaviors are usually a reflection of your identity. What you do is an indication of the type of person you believe that you are, either consciously or non-consciously. Good habits can make rational sense, but if they conflict with your identity, you will fail to put them into action. On any given day, you may struggle with your habits because you're too busy or too tired or too overwhelmed or hundreds of other reasons. Over the long run, however, the real reason you fail to stick with habits is that your self-image gets in the way. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs, and to upgrade and expand your identity. The more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce the identity associated with that behavior. Your habits are not the only actions that influence your identity, but by virtue of their frequency they are usually the most important ones. We do not change by snapping our fingers and deciding to be someone entirely new. We change bit by bit, day by day, habit by habit. We are continually undergoing microevolutions of the self. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. The most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do. You don't need a unanimous vote to win an election, you just need a majority. It doesn't matter if you cast a few votes for a bad behavior or an unproductive habit. Your goal is simply to win the majority of the time. Decide the type of person you want to be. Prove it to yourself with small wins. Once you have a handle on the type of person you want to be, you can begin taking small steps to reinforce your desired identity. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. It's a two-way street. It's important to let your values, principles, and identity drive the loop rather than your results. The focus should always be on becoming that type of person, not getting a particular outcome. Build better habits in 4 simple steps. Behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated, and those that produce unpleasant consequences are less likely to be repeated. Whenever you encounter a new situation in life, your brain has to make a decision. How do I respond to this? The first time you come across a problem, you're not sure how to solve it. Your brain tries different things out to see what works. After you stumble upon an unexpected reward, you alter your strategy for next time. Your brain immediately begins to catalog the events that preceded the reward. Wait a minute, that felt good. What did I do right before that? The process of building a habit can be divided into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. First, there is the cue. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. It is a bit of information that predicts a reward. Cravings are the second step, and they are the motivational force behind every habit. Without some level of motivation or desire, without craving a change, we have no reason to act. What you crave is not the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers. The third step is the response. The response is the actual habit you perform, which can take the form of a thought or an action. Whether a response occurs depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. Finally, the response delivers a reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward. In summary, the cue triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward, which satisfies the craving and, ultimately, becomes associated with the cue. This four-step process is not something that happens occasionally, but rather it is an endless feedback loop that is running and active during every moment you are alive, even now. Whenever you want to change your behavior, you can simply ask yourself, how can I make it obvious? How can I make it attractive? How can I make it easy? How can I make it satisfying? The first law, make it obvious. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The human brain is a prediction machine. It is continuously taking in your surroundings and analyzing the information it comes across. One of our greatest challenges in changing habits is maintaining awareness of what we are actually doing. Implementation intention. The cues that can trigger a habit come in a wide range of forms: the feel of your phone buzzing in your pocket, the smell of chocolate chip cookies, the sound of ambulance sirens, but the two most common cues are time and location. The best way to make your cue obvious is implementation intention. The format for creating an implementation intention is, when situation X arises, I will perform response Y. The punchline is clear: people who make a specific plan for when and where they will perform a new habit are more likely to follow through. We tell ourselves, I'm going to eat healthier or I'm going to write more, but we never say when and where these habits are going to happen. Many people think they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. Give your habits a time and a space to live in the world. The goal is to make the time and location so obvious that, with enough repetition, you get an urge to do the right thing at the right time, even if you can't say why. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. Your habits change depending on the room you are in and the cues in front of you. The environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Despite our unique personalities, certain behaviors tend to arise again and again under certain environmental conditions. Customers will occasionally buy products not because they want them, but because of how they are presented to them. The truth, however, is that many of the actions we take each day are shaped not by purposeful drive and choice, but by the most obvious option. The most powerful of all human sensory abilities, however, is vision. The human body has about 11 million sensory receptors. Approximately 10 million of those are dedicated to sight. A small change in what you see can lead to a big shift in what you do. Creating obvious visual cues can draw your attention toward a desired habit. Our behavior is not defined by the objects in the environment, but by our relationship to them. Start thinking about it as filled with relationships. Think in terms of how you interact with the spaces around you. For one person, her couch is the place where she reads for an hour each night. For someone else, the couch is where he watches television and eats a bowl of ice cream after work. Whenever possible, avoid mixing the context of one habit with another. When you start mixing contexts, you'll start mixing habits, and the easier ones will usually win out. If your space is limited, divide your room into activity zones: a chair for reading, a desk for writing, and a table for eating. Habits thrive under predictable circumstances like these. Focus comes automatically when you are sitting at your work desk. Relaxation is easier when you are in a space designed for that purpose. Sleep comes quickly when it is the only thing that happens in your bedroom. If you want behaviors that are stable and predictable, you need an environment that is stable and predictable. The secret to self-control. During the Vietnam War, 20% of soldiers were heroin addicts. After they returned, only 5% remained addicted. A commonly held notion prevails that once you are addicted to heroin, it's hard to overcome. How did soldiers that returned overcome heroin addiction? You see, it's the stressful environment of the Vietnam War that was causing the cue for heroin addiction. The secret to self-control: the environment matters. Disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower and self-control. Perseverance, grit, and willpower are essential to success, But the way to improve these qualities is not by wishing you were a more disciplined person, but by creating a more disciplined environment. A habit that has been encoded in the mind is ready to be used whenever the relevant situation arises. The second law, make it attractive. If you want to increase the odds that a behavior will occur, then you need to make it attractive. Habits are a dopamine-driven feedback loop. Every behavior that is highly habit-forming, like taking drugs, eating junk food, playing video games, and browsing social media, is associated with higher levels of dopamine. For years, scientists assumed dopamine was all about pleasure, but now we know it plays a central role in many neurological processes, including motivation, learning and memory, punishment and aversion, and voluntary movement. When it comes to habits, the key takeaway is this: dopamine is released not only when you experience pleasure, but also when you anticipate it. It is the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. Whenever you predict that an opportunity will be rewarding, your levels of dopamine spike in anticipation. And whenever dopamine rises, so does your motivation to act. Temptation bundling is one way to make your habits more attractive. The strategy is to pair an action you want to do, like watching Netflix, with an action you need to do, like exercising. The role of family and friends in shaping your habits. Humans are herd animals. We want to fit in, bond with others, and earn the respect and approval of our peers. Such inclinations are essential to our survival. We don't choose our earliest habits, we imitate them. We follow the script handed down by our friends and family, our church or school, our local community, and society at large. We imitate the habits of three groups in particular: the close, the many, the powerful. As a general rule, the closer we are to someone, the more likely we are to imitate some of their habits. One of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. Nothing sustains motivation better than belonging to the tribe. It transforms a personal quest into a shared one. Humans are similar. There is tremendous internal pressure to comply with the norms of the group. The reward of being accepted is often greater than the reward of winning an argument, looking smart, or finding the truth. Most days, we'd rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves. The third law, make it easy. Hebb's law, neurons that fire together wire together. In a film photography class, a professor at Florida State University divided his students into two groups. One group was asked to take a perfect photo, and this group will be graded on the quality of that photo. The other group was graded on the quantity of the photos. Guess which group produced the best photos? If you guessed the quantity group, then you guessed it right. It is easy to get bogged down trying to find the optimal plan for change, the fastest way to lose weight, the best program to build muscle, the perfect idea for a side hustle. We are so focused on figuring out the best approach that we never get around to taking action. The lesson here is simple: if you want to master a habit, the key is repetition, not perfection. You don't need to map out every feature of a new habit. You just need to practice it. This is the first takeaway of the third law: you just need to get your reps in. The law of least effort. Whether we are approaching behavior change as an individual, a parent, a coach, or a leader, we should ask ourselves the same question: how can we design a world where it's easy to do what's right? Redesign your life so the actions that matter most are also the actions that are easiest to do. Human behavior follows the law of least effort. We will naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of work. Reduce the friction associated with good behaviors. When friction is low, habits are easy. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. It seems to be easier to continue what you are already doing than to start doing something different. Every day, there are a handful of moments that deliver an outsized impact called decisive moments. The moment you decide between ordering takeout or cooking dinner. The moment you choose between driving your car or riding your bike. When you dream about making a change, excitement inevitably takes over and you end up trying to do too much too soon. The most effective way I know to counteract this tendency is to use the 2-minute rule, which states, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The idea is to make your habits as easy as possible to start. Anyone can meditate for 1 minute, read 1 page, or put 1 item of clothing away. And, as we have just discussed, this is a powerful strategy because once you've started doing the right thing, it is much easier to continue doing it. The point is to master the habit of showing up. The truth is, a habit must be established before it can be improved. If you can't learn the basic skill of showing up, then you have little hope of mastering the finer details. Standardize before you optimize. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. The 4th law, make it satisfying. What is rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided. The mismatch between immediate and delayed rewards. We live in what scientists call a delayed return environment because you can work for years before your actions deliver the intended payoff. Our ancestors spent their days responding to grave threats, securing the next meal, and taking shelter from a storm. It made sense to place a high value on instant gratification. The distant future was less of a concern. We live in a world where grave threats are no longer a huge concern, but we still carry a brain that prefers instant reward, which served well our ancestors. After all, why would someone smoke if they know it increases the risk of lung cancer? Smoking might kill you in 10 years, but it reduces stress and eases your nicotine cravings now. Once you understand how the brain prioritizes rewards, the answers become clear. The consequences of bad habits are delayed while the rewards are immediate. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. The best way to do this is to add a little bit of immediate pleasure to the habits that pay off in the long run and a little bit of immediate pain to the ones that don't. In the beginning, you need a reason to stay on track. This is why immediate rewards are essential. They keep you excited while the delayed rewards accumulate in the background. Immediate rewards could be as simple as patting your back or appreciating yourself for doing the right thing. Incentives can start a habit. Identity sustains a habit. How to stick with good habits every day. The most effective form of motivation is progress. When we get a signal that we are moving forward, we become more motivated to continue down that path. A habit tracker is a simple way to measure whether you did a habit, like marking an X on a calendar. Habit trackers and other visual forms of measurement can make your habits satisfying by providing clear evidence of your progress. If you're not feeling motivated by the number on the scale, perhaps it's time to focus on a different measurement, one that gives you more signals of progress. Just as we are more likely to repeat an experience when the ending is satisfying, we are also more likely to avoid an experience when the ending is painful. Conclusion: if you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change. This is a continuous process. There is no finish line. There is no permanent solution. Whenever you're looking to improve, you can rotate through the 4 laws of behavior change until you find the next bottleneck. Make it obvious. Make it attractive. Make it easy. Make it satisfying. Round and round. Always looking for the next way to get a little bit better. Action steps. Here are 5 action steps you can take to put these ideas immediately to work. 1. Use the idea of implementation intention. When situation X arises, I will perform response Y. 2. The best strategy for self-control. Optimize your environment. Make it easy on yourself by optimizing your environment, which helps you make good habits as easy as possible. 3. Create attractive habits via temptation bundling. The strategy is to pair an action you want to do, like watching Netflix, with an action you need to do, like exercising. 4. Rather than trying to get a perfect plan to start, just get started. Remember, it's the repetition that creates habits. 5. Use the 2-minute rule to show up even when you don't feel like it. The point is to master the habit of showing up. The truth is, a habit must be established before it can be improved. If you can't learn the basic skill of showing up, then you have little hope of mastering the finer details. This was the summary of the Atomic Habits, presented by Animated Insights. If you like the video, please like and hit subscribe. It apparently helps with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for watching and happy creating Atomic Habits.